Clarity on Fire, a podcast for people who know what they don't want out of their life and career, but aren't sure what they'd rather be doing.
In a world where it's easy to exist, but hard to feel alive, we, Kristen
and Rachel,
two certified life and career coaches, are here to help you cut through the information overload, get unstuck, and focus not just on how you can have a career you're passionate about, but how to create a whole life that feels fulfilling.
So join us here, where we serve up inspiration and down-to-earth wisdom in a way that only two best friends can.
We want you to experience the relief of knowing that, yes, you're allowed to want more out of your life and career.
And no, you don't have to wander through the dark anymore. Our job is to light the fire that shows you the way. Let's go.
Hi.
Hey,
Did you miss me?
you're back.
Well, they heard me last week, but this is the first day you've...
Are you asking me if I missed you?
Yeah, I'm actively asking you if you missed me.
I've been seeing you for hours, so.
Well, but this is the first day you've seen me in like 3 weeks.
It's weird. This is maybe the longest
No. We've had 3-week intervals all summer for random reasons, like when my place flooded and then I got sick.
That's true, but that was unexpected. But still, yeah, I don't know.
Guess what? Unexpected 3 weeks and expected 3 weeks still adds up to a 3-week interval.
True, but then the weeks just go by and you don't realize how many weeks are going by. But this was like...
You were counting down the days until I returned home.
Well, and you were also...
Did you have one of those paper chains where people tear them off?
Can you imagine?
I couldn't. I would defriend you if you did that to me.
That would be kind of like an obsessive stalker friend.
I would be very
paper
concerned
chain.
if you did that. There are certain friends I have who, if they did that, I'd be like, that's fine. That's in character for them. But if you did it, I would be like, there's something wrong with you. Because you would never exert that much time and energy on something like that. Like, it would be such a waste of your time.
Yeah, I have so much going on right now. I cannot focus on making paper
Would you
chains.
like to speak to that?
Yeah. So I have, since people keep asking me, when is the wedding going to be? And I kept for a while saying, I don't know, maybe this spring, I don't know. And then I just decided I don't want to do a whole big crazy thing because I don't really care that much about weddings. I know that's a weird thing for a woman to say.
No,
sorry.
It's not. It's not. It shouldn't be a controversial opinion because I share it. Yeah. Therefore, it shouldn't be controversial.
There's two of us at least. Yeah,
no, I don't care either.
I'm like, I don't want to spend 6 months planning for one day. That is so stressful.
Thousands of dollars.
It's so much money. And I just want to do something really small and super simple, like cut out all the fluff. Like, what are the bare essentials to get married? Like slightly, like a step above getting eloped. Like, yes, there will be some people there, but like 25. And we're just going to do it next month. Mm-hmm. Because then you really have to cut out all the fluff. Plus, I really like the fall and it's a good time. And then I only spend 1 month planning something instead of 6.
It's not next month. They're hearing this on November 5th.
Oh, yeah.
Actually, it's in 2 weeks.
It's in 2 weeks. It's November 20th. That's the day. We're doing a teeny little, I guess it's called a micro wedding now.
Oh, well, you're a micro person, so that works.
With a micro family. We're all little, pretty wee.
Everyone's pretty small, so it works.
It works. It's in character. So that's it. We're just going and getting married and going to dinner afterward and then calling it a day.
I'm grateful that I don't have to pretend to be into a single ladies dance.
Oh,
actually, the last time I went to a wedding and they did that, I walked out and left. I'm not kidding. I did not participate. There will actually be time to go.
No dancing. There will be no bouquet toss.
I'm so pleased.
There will be none of the things. There might be a few people who give toasts at dinner. That's it. No fancy anything. I'll probably have somebody else cut the cake. Just deliver it to me. So yeah, bare essentials. And it's still going to be lovely. It's just going to be simple and inexpensive. And that is what I want. And small. It's going to be an introverted wedding. Mm-hmm. So there you go. That's my update.
Hope you don't get offended, all of you who had mega weddings.
Look,
good for you. If you love that.
I get the appeal theoretically. I just don't get the appeal personally.
Practically speaking Yeah. I actually saw that on an Instagram post today. I wish I knew which account this was so I could go follow it for you. It was an ADHD account. And they said one of the best like descriptions of ADHD is feeling constantly overwhelmed.
Yeah, that is my major experience.
Yeah. So,
and on top of having a job and a business and also wedding planning, speak of overwhelm. I mean, it's next level. So I'm not going to do that to myself for 6 months. I'm going to do it for 1. That's all.
I mean, it's still pretty bad. The overwhelm.
Yeah. Oh, sure. Of course.
But it would be bad. Yeah, it would just stretch to fill the space. That's 6 months or longer.
That's always how things go. So I'm not doing it that way. So I'm like, what do I need? I need a place to get married. I need a place to eat food afterward. And I need a dress and maybe a cake.
Photographer.
And somebody to take pictures. That's it. That's really it.
And you need people to come. Maybe.
Right.
I don't know. Who cares? Sure. Maybe.
I already have enough who have said they're willing to come that I'm good.
They're willing to come. I mean, I guess. Well, sure.
So yeah, that's what we're doing. She
doesn't care what people wear either. I showed her the sweater dress that I'm intending to wear, and she was like, "That's fine."
Yeah,
it's okay.
I don't want to tell people what to wear. Wear whatever you want. People are like, "What are your colors? What's your theme?" No colors. It's fall. I don't know. Fall colors? Question mark.
My dress is a fall color, so nailing your theme.
There you go.
That doesn't exist.
That doesn't exist.
I think it's a little weird to have a theme. Like, again, no offense to people who had themes, but like, what is that even? Like, if I were to have a wedding, I would want my theme to be like Star Wars or something. I wouldn't want it to be like
Harry Potter,
brown and ochre, golden ochre. Like, that's not a theme. Those are just colors.
We have none of the things. None of the things. Sorry. Just if you loved party planning, then that was probably like a really fun part of your life. If you got married and you loved
I think party planning is absolutely awful.
Do not enjoy party planning.
I think it's like a 7th ring.
I'm not even super much a fan of being at parties.
You're not a super much fan of grammar today, apparently.
Oh, my brain is a lot of different places today.
Also, you're not a super much fan of parties? What about me? Am I like an extra supernatural not fan of parties?
I think so.
Yeah.
Whatever the more extreme version.
Yeah.
So that's the update. November 20th. It'll be here in a blink. And then that'll be that. And then no more planning.
So nice.
Yeah.
I'm going to cough occasionally probably during this. And I'm probably not going to bother asking it to be edited out because I brought back a cough from the
chesty
UK.
Cough. Isn't that what they call it?
Well, yeah. So when I went to go get medicine, because I knew it was a chest cold, but of course I had to get tested for COVID just to make sure. And it was negative. I actually took an at-home test because they can just, oh my God, they just give you free. They gave me and Marissa 7 free at-home tests. And I was like, what do I owe you? And they're 7? Like, this is free. And I was like, the NHS is amazing. I'm like, wow, good health care. I was like astounded.
That's
and
incredible.
I told them, you can't get anything for free in America. Nothing.
No. Also, not just 1. You got 7.
And I went to an official test site too, like on the same day, just to double down on like my results. So anyway, they were both negative, but it was very much like taking a pregnancy test. Like it was the same size, like the at-home one was the same size, and you had to wait 15 minutes. And it was like a double line.
Oh my gosh.
If you were or weren't. And so we were so nervous that we put paper towels over them and ran upstairs. And then when we
15 minutes is a long time to wait. At least a pregnancy test. What is that? Like 2 minutes or something?
3 minutes or something. And we ran back downstairs when it was time. And we like nervously looked at each other. And then we like flipped the paper towels off. And we saw that it was negative. And we embraced and we jumped up and down. And we yelled to our friend Amy, "We're not pregnant." And she was like, "Yay, you're not pregnant." Anyway, it was really scary. But I didn't have COVID. But I do have
you were pretty
chest
sick
cold
for a day or two, though.
A couple days. I was pretty run down. And like I sounded like there was a death rattle in my chest.
Oh.
And I had the nasty crap to go with it, like the coughing up of crap. Sorry, TMI. But when I went to buy medicine at Boots, one of the one that I bought was called chesty cough. And I'm like, I have a chesty cough. That's exactly right. Scottish. So I bought it and I was like, I brought it back with me too. Because I was like, this is a good souvenir.
To memorialize your sickness.
Yeah. So anyway, I still sort of have a slight chesty cough. But
how have you been adjusting back to normal life? after being gone for...
The first 24 hours was rough because I was tired. I keep waking up at 4 a.m. and being like, hello, I'm awake.
Which is
and then eventually
like 9 a.m. Yeah.
And then eventually I will fall back asleep. So I'm okay. I'm not as like tired or depressed or like
jet lagged.
Yeah, or existentially spiraling as I thought I might be, because post-vacation blues are a thing. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. Does anyone want to hear highlights of this trip? Yes. I feel like I have to tell people. This is going to be a long episode.
Yeah, that's
whatever. Okay. Skip over this if you don't want to hear my trip highlights.
Sure, we have a lot of highlights to share with you.
Okay, so I shared a little bit about this on Discord in our community, so I'm just going to use the same highlights I used there because, like, repurpose your content, people. But these were really some of my best highlights. So, number one was one of the first days we were there. We woke up and it was the morning. It was the day we were going to go to the Harry Potter studio tour, not Harry Potter World. Okay, I've also been there. So is Kristen. This is the film studio. So, like, the Warner Brothers studio where they shot all of the movies. And so, like, you actually like see the sets, not in the exact place. They like reconstructed them and they made it into this amazing like walkthrough experience. It takes 3 hours to walk through the whole thing. And of course, there's a cafe positioned in the middle because like they're really smart about their marketing and their money making. But that morning we woke up and actually it was the night before we'd strolled home and we were staying in this very lovely like set of like old Victorian townhomes that had been converted into like little studio apartments. And so we each had our own little studio apartment, which was clutch because then we each got our own room and our own shower. And it was really inexpensive too. It was like maybe £90 a night, which is pretty cheap for London, you know? Yeah. So anyway, that night there was horse-drawn carriages lined up on our street. And we were like, oh, something's going down. They're filming something tomorrow. And so Marissa came home and she had a note under her door from one of the production people on an HBO show called The Nevers, which I haven't heard of, but it stars the woman who plays Jenny Fraser in Outlander, for those of you who know. If you know, you know. And it's like a Victorian sci-fi where like a bunch of women wake up with like superpowers in Victorian England. And I'm like, yes, oh, yeah, I definitely want to watch that now. So anyway, he asked, can we comp your room for the day if we can show up at 7 a.m. tomorrow and change out your curtains so they're period appropriate?
Yeah, please.
She was like, absolutely. So they did that the next morning. And then we had to like wait to leave until they were done filming on our doorstep. They were filming the show on our doorstep.
You have to watch the show now. You'll have to pick out the place where you stayed.
We'll be able to, because Marissa's like window was right there. Yeah. And she was peeking out of it half the time. So she might have ended up in the show. And there was extras everywhere. They had like the horses and the carriages and they put gravel all over the street so that it wouldn't look like it was paved. And there was smoke. There was a fog machine and we got to walk through the set on our way out. And it was so fun. Everyone was in their garb and their like wigs and they had those like the men had those like mutton chop sideburns affixed to their faces. Oh yeah. Like,
oh man,
it was so cool.
I love a good British show. And then to feel like you're walking in the middle of one.
It was really cool.
Next level.
And then we went to Harry Potter Studios and that was awesome. Just like all of the sets and all of the artistry and just, I bought like $120 worth of crap at the gift shop without blinking. And then that night,
I was so jealous of all the pictures.
I know. There were so many. I mean, just so many amazing things. And then that night we went to Notting Hill and did a little shopping, which was very, really great spot. Love Notting Hill. Also great movie. You know, in general. I feel like that movie did a lot for Notting Hill as a neighborhood. And then we went to this really nice, healthy restaurant for dinner. And on the way out, Brie Larson was just sitting there having dinner with people. And I was like, what? That's my celebrity doppelganger. And she's right there. And thankfully she did not notice us noticing her because I would have felt really awkward if she'd known that I was like, gaping at her.
A fangirl moment
when I got outside because Marissa hadn't noticed her. And so I turned around and I was like, that was Brie Larson. I was like mad that I hadn't told her earlier. And I was like, I would have had to stop in front of Brie Larson and point her out to you.
That's Brie Larson.
Like, I couldn't have done that. So we had a day of like film and television. Wow. It was really exciting.
Yeah, you had a theme day.
And really the takeaway that I got from that is, spoiler alert, people, I did not come back with like a Scottish boyfriend or something. That would have been real impressive had I done that. Not saying it's not potentially possible one day. I'm saying it didn't happen this time.
Well, in
the 2 weeks that I was there, and I wasn't even in Scotland.
I was going to say,
but half the time,
London half the time.
But the takeaway from that day was, hey, if the universe can put you in the same room at the same time with your celebrity doppelganger, it can put you in the same room at the same time with anybody, right?
Oh yeah.
Also, if no one thinks I look like Brie Larson, that's fine. But I have been told multiple times that I look like her, and I actually kind of see it. In some cases, I don't. Anyway, that was one day. I'm not going to go through all 14, but that was one great day. Oh my God. And then we had a 3-day Highland tour after I recovered from my sickness. And think about this. You know that we had signed up for a 3-day Highland tour that canceled on us.
Yep.
Because they didn't have enough people signed up. And we were supposed to go on a Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And they offered us a different tour that we weren't available for because we were going to be in London. So we had to find a different tour company called the Harry Coo. And it was a big orange bus that had like Harry Coo, like coo is cow, cow horns on the front. And it was a super cute bus. But anyway, we were like, okay, we're going to go on the Harry Coo tour instead, which also was going to be Friday, Saturday, Sunday. They then emailed us 2 days before we left saying, we don't have enough people. Can you go on the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday tour instead? And we said, we'll make that work. Because we could. We were going to be in Edinburgh anyway.
But you were sick over the weekend.
But exactly. I got sick on the worst day I had was Saturday. So by the time Monday rolled around, I was well enough. Whereas if I'd woken up on Saturday and I felt like that, and I felt like I had to get a COVID test, and I was on a bus full of people, it would have been a disaster.
Oh yeah.
So
plus, you had the
looked
best.
Out.
Plus, you had the best tour guide.
Have had him
exactly.
if the other tour had worked out.
So it was all for good reason.
We had John, who was the best. He's a DJ on the side. And so he played what he likes to call high volume techno music. A lot of the time we did bussyoke and sang together. It was so great.
He had the best accent.
He had the absolute best accent.
You sent me a video and I just was like, repeat.
He was so awesome. And we went all over the Highlands and we went to Skye and we got completely and utterly drenched. And I was actually happy despite being completely sodden and wet and cold.
And still a little sick.
And sick. Yeah, I was all of those things. And yet I was like climbing up the fairy falls and I was on the top of a very high peak in Skye, getting absolutely blasted sideways with rain. And I was just like living my best life. And then the other best day was when we did our Jane Austen tour with Phil, who is he's a lecturer. He's like a professor.
A scholar.
Yes, but he also is in a band.
Oh.
And he could not have adored me and Marissa more. And we were the first people he'd taken on a tour since COVID. And so he was just delighted to be back in his element. And he hugged us at the end and was just so happy that he'd met us. And he was such a Jane Austen fan. And he took us to all these places you never would have seen because you can't go on Jane Austen's birthplace because it's private property. So he knows where to stop so that you can climb a hill and peer over the fence and take pictures of where she was born. And then we went to the church where her dad was rector and where she was baptized. And there's a 600-year-old yew tree right in front of it, which obviously she would have, played around as a kid or whatever. It was there when she was there. And there's a hollow in it. And so Marissa and I had written letters to Jane and we left them in the hollow of that yew tree.
Oh my God.
I know.
So
and then we went to her house where which is now a museum. It's a living museum where she spent the latter part of her life. And we got to just walk around her bedroom. And we got to see clothes that she'd worn.
The pictures of her house
it's exactly out of a film set.
It's exactly what I imagine and exactly the life that I live in my fantasies.
And
the 4-poster bed and the little writing nook with the grandfather clock behind it. I mean, it's just,
yeah, we got to see the actual teeny tiny little writing desk where she wrote all of her books. It was like a pilgrim. It was a pilgrimage. It really was. So anyway, those were my Those are some,
You
just
did
a few things that I did.
Harry Potter, Shakespeare, and Jane
I saw,
Austen. So
yeah, I saw A Midsummer Night's Dream at the Globe.
those were the things I was most jealous of, is all of my literary loves.
I did quite a lot of literature stuff. Also came back with some books, obviously.
Of course.
So yeah, I had a cracking time, as John would say. I really have to like include more of Scottish vocabulary now, because I really did learn some great. You
got a calendar of Scottish phrases.
Sayings. That's for 2022. I'm gonna hang it proudly in my bathroom. We had a guy on the trip. There was very few men on the trip. We had a couple on the trip who he kept calling the guy Slim. I still have no idea what that guy's name was, but he will forever live on in my mind as Slim. They were a super nice couple. But he told Slim, and actually Slim was not that skinny. I don't know why he decided to call him Slim, but he introduced me to an amazing new phrase, which was, I've seen more meat on a butcher's pencil. So,
wow. Is that like if you're out at a nice restaurant and they bring you a teeny little portion?
Or like if you're a super skinny person with like no meat on your bones.
Okay.
I don't know. I've seen more meat on a butcher's pencil. Anyway, I loved it.
Oh, that's good.
So anyway, I had a cracking good time. And now I'm here returning back to the real world and like
the United States,
the condo association bullshit of my life that continues on unabated. And like, that's
a nice little reprieve.
And it felt like I was gone for a month. You know, you can do a lot in a day when you're not working or replying to emails or like cooking and cleaning up after yourself. Like, there's none of that. You can fit so much in and you go so many places.
Days are long
and do so
chores.
many things. And so I fit so much in. It was like I was gone for a month.
You'll have photos forever.
Anyway, okay. Well, this is meant to be a Dear Krachel episode. So now it will become one.
Okay.
All right. We've got 3 questions. Can you imagine if they waited all that time just to hear this and they didn't care about any of that? Wow.
Yeah, I hope if you didn't care, you just fast forwarded. And now you're here hearing our Dear Krachel questions.
All right. I guess you can read the first one if you want.
Yeah. Dear Krachel, I recently went through a really tough breakup. It's made me start to question everything. But my question is, if someone you thought was it turned out to disappoint and hurt you so much, and mind you, I vet and am very, very careful in the get to know someone period. So I have a very good idea of who they are. How could you feel you can trust yourself in the future with this type of quote unquote knowing? Also, okay, so I actually have 2 questions. Can people ever really change enough, although God knows how long it would take, to be able to stop triggering each other in romantic relationships? And that is from D. All right, 2 questions there. There's a connection point, I think, between the questions that we'll get to. But first question, how can you trust yourself after you thought you knew someone, you thought you'd vetted them, and then they still hurt you and they still disappoint you?
If you've listened to chapter 7 of Forever Alone. D, you haven't done anything wrong. There's only so much you can know before you dive into something, and then you learn as you go. And sometimes you get surprised by people.
People are complicated.
They got layers.
You can be discerning at the beginning, which is clear that you are.
Which I highly recommend.
I highly recommend. You vet people, like you said, you really intuitively check in with yourself.
You go slow. It sounds like you take it slow and you don't try to rush into everything.
You're doing all the right things. And yet people are still complicated. People are still going to reveal themselves little by little. And there are things that might end up being deal breakers that you could not have known at the very beginning.
No, there are. I empathize so deeply with your desire to know everything ahead of time so you don't have to waste your time
and get hurt. And
unfortunately, that's not life. That's like not. And that wouldn't be normal, to be honest, if you could figure it all out ahead of time. And if you could avoid all experience and just be able to figure it out in your head before you even do a thing.
I know. No amount of vetting enables you to have a guarantee that something's going to work.
Literally
now, that doesn't mean give up on vetting, obviously.
No, we're not telling you to do anything different than what you're doing.
Exactly. I think from what you've said, you're doing this the right way. You're trying to tap into your intuition. You're trying to really see people for who they are.
And be cautious.
Early on. But that's still not a guarantee that someone who might seem right at the beginning turns out to not be right for you. And that also doesn't mean there wasn't still value in that experience with that person.
And does that not lead us into the second part of her question, which is about how is it possible? Like, can you ever do enough work so that two people can be in a relationship and not get triggered by each other?
Okay, first of all, I love that the way she phrased that question. As if two people are ever going to be in a relationship and not trigger each other.
Yeah, D, like, come on. You know what we're going to say about that. The answer to that is no, that's never going to happen because you can't be in a relationship with a tree. Well, you could, but like, you're not going to get
tree
much
could
out
trigger
of it.
you. You'll be like,
truly,
will you speak back to me finally? I feel like I'm talking to the wall. I mean, at some point it would get annoying.
I mean, right. Like your branches are looking really dull today. I don't know. Like there is literally no, okay.
If you're
is it possible for a person to have zero triggers? No. It's not possible.
Not healthy also to not have zero.
I think it would be very scary for a person to be completely triggerless. And honestly, it would only be because they were in such deep denial of their existing triggers. It's not possible. So therefore,
and if you are in relationship with another person, you will trigger each other. Even if it's a good, healthy relationship, you're still going to trigger each other.
Yeah.
Often, probably.
The better question to ask is it possible to have a healthy relationship where despite triggering each other at times, it doesn't devolve into pettiness or icing each other out or resentment or passive aggression? Can conflict lead to growth and expansion? And the answer to that question is, yeah, for sure. If you're with the kind of person who values open communication and honesty and growth and is not so driven by their ego that they can't admit that they were wrong or that they can't admit that they have triggers or that they have issues that predate your relationship with them that they're bringing to the table. If you've got someone who's willing to go there, then triggers don't have to be a deal breaker or a problem or scary. But if we zoom out and we look at the theme of these two questions put together, the theme is, I mean, it's kind of like what she's asking without saying it is, how do I do a relationship without vulnerability? And the answer is you can't.
Right. How do I be in a relationship that won't ever hurt me?
Yeah.
Sorry. You're going to get hurt sometimes.
Yeah.
People
will disappoint
hurt other people even when they love them.
Sometimes, especially because you love someone, they have the power to trigger you the most. Like I had that reaction. Okay. And again, it wasn't like I was like in an actual relationship of love. Whatever. But if you've listened to chapter of 7 of Forever Alone, you know that I was in a somewhat similar position to D, at least about how I felt about it is similar to how she's.
Yeah, you vetted someone early on and you were really discerning and they still surprised and disappointed you.
Yep. And I had a point there that I was trying to make and I don't know what it was now, but maybe I'll figure it out. I mean,
well, you empathize. I think you were going to say something along the lines of you empathize with wanting to be in something where you're not, where you know, right? And where you're not going to be as triggered, but there's no way of avoiding that. Now, the answer to your second question is, can people change enough to be, I'm going to reframe it, to be in healthy relationship where triggers help you grow, not turn into resentment? The answer is yes, but not everybody is willing to do their half.
Right. Which is probably why you ended up breaking up.
Yeah.
With this
person.
So
can you change enough? Yes. But both of you have to end in the same direction in order for that to work.
Mm-hmm.
And if one
I know what I was going to say.
Want to change.
I know what I was going to say. Stop. Okay. So I don't forget it.
Don't forget.
It was, I shared with you, like part of in being in the early phases, of like talking to someone and like going on dates with someone was, I forgot that when you like someone, you give them the power to hurt you a lot.
Yeah.
And I hated it. I really hated that sensation. And I think that's maybe where Dee is coming from, is that she doesn't like that sensation any more than I do. And she's trying to ask questions where it seems like, her intention is good. It's like, I want to grow and I want to make sure that I'm doing my best discernment and I want to avoid wasting my time. And but really what's going on, I think deeper, is I don't want to give someone the power to hurt me if I can at all avoid it. And I completely understand that. And to a point, it's unavoidable. You have to. You're going to be in a relationship with someone, you absolutely have to give them the power to hurt you and then trust them not to. And then sometimes they will.
And sometimes they will anyway. And you're going to do the same thing.
Yeah.
Inadvertently. That's just
okay. Can we also comment on the fact that you and I still
trigger each other?
Trigger each other and get into conflict?
Yes. We always have
regularly
since we met, and we still do to this day and will in the future. I think the important thing is how we handle it. And how we communicate about it, because
you're not as passive aggressive anymore, and I'm not as aggressive anymore.
Right. And it helps that we're coaches and we know how to talk these things, but that doesn't mean you get less triggered. I would say
you can get
people.
I think I'm less triggered over time by you. You know what I mean? Like you don't have the same. My triggers aren't as huge as they were. So when your triggers shrink, other people's ability to push your buttons shrinks too.
But it doesn't ever go away. And I would argue the people closest to you will trigger you the most
because they have the power to hurt you. And strangers don't often have that power over you. So it doesn't bother you as much.
Right. And one of my favorite little descriptions of this is if a stranger called you up on the phone and said, "Hi, you don't know me, but I'm never going to call you again." You'd be like, "Okay, bye."
Right.
Like it would mean nothing. If your best friend or your boyfriend or whoever called you and said,
I never want to speak to you again,
it would devastate you.
Yeah.
And that's because you care so much. So when you care, you can get hurt and you will get hurt. And that's okay. It's just, how are you recovering from that? How are you each recovering from that? How are you communicating about that?
Who are you in a relationship with?
Because if someone's just triggering you for no good reason and they are insensitive and don't care, that's not healthy.
And again, you've done the vetting process as much as you can. So you're going to have to allow yourself to go through the figuring it out process of, does this person deserve to have the power to hurt me?
Yes.
And that's not something you can figure out with your head up to a point. You're going to have to give people an opportunity to see if they're worthy. And that's hard.
It's really hard.
But you're doing nothing wrong. You're doing all the right things, Dee.
Yeah, you're doing everything right. It's just recognizing that sometimes disappointment, sometimes getting triggered is not a sign that something is deeply wrong necessarily. It's just a sign that you care.
Dee, I'm going to leave a couple episodes for you and anyone who feels like this is something they want to brush up more on. We have an episode, I think it's the one from June 2019, our side chat about honing your intuition and knowing when it's really fear. But I feel like we had another one about intuition that was what happens if my intuition was wrong?
We did. I don't know if it was a side chat or what, but we had something about that.
I think that one's more the one that I'm thinking about. So I will put that in. I'll put both of those in the show notes. And I'll also put the one about telling a difference between red, green, and yellow flags.
Yes.
Because I think that's really good for helping hone your discernment ahead of time and knowing should I have known that? Or was that something I only could have learned once I had the experience? So some good content coming at you from the past. Okay.
Question two.
All right. This is one from a philosopher. Dear Krachel, this is a question about questions. So kind of meta. How do you determine the right or the most effective question to be asking? Whether it's trying to figure out what to do with your life, what you're looking for in a partner, or any other number of big, elusive life topics. I am an intuitive reader, and I find that for myself and my clients, it often turns out that we're asking the wrong questions. And by wrong, I mean the questions that are not actually going to yield effective insights and changes once we embark on the journey to find their answers. A lot of times, the questions we ask ourselves and try to figure out the answers to just end up sending us on wild anxiety loops and side street detours to what we're really seeking in life. I love that quote that says, the wise man doesn't give the right answers. He poses the right questions. That's from Claude Levi-Strauss. But how do we get to the point of asking the right questions of ourselves, our lives, our relationships, etc., in the first place? Thank you, Chelsea. Chelsea's the smart one.
I love this question about questions.
Yeah.
I really do. And I think that there's a lot of wisdom behind trying to discern the right question more so than the right answer. And I think we have multiple thoughts about this.
Well, this is a complicated thing.
It is. I first of all, I don't think that there is a right question necessarily, but I do think that
there are
Chelsea's
better and worse questions.
There's more effective questions that are going to get more to the heart of it. But sometimes finding the right question is a little bit of a journey itself.
I think sometimes you have to start with asking the best question you can come up with at the moment and then following it down a rabbit hole.
Yep. And sometimes you can tell if a question seems like a good one, but then when you get to the answer, you're a little bit disappointed or it's unsatisfying in some way, which is probably just a sign that there's a question underneath of that. So for example, if you're asking yourself the question, I don't want to just talk totally in philosophical terms. I want to give some examples. So if you are asking yourself the question, what jobs do I want to apply for next? Then your brain is going to start coming up with answers about you could apply for this job, or you could apply for this job, or you could apply for this job. And if a lot of what you're looking at still feels unsatisfying, maybe we need to back up and ask a different question, which might be, do I want to apply for another job or do I want to work in a different way? How do I want to work in the first place? Maybe being employed by someone else isn't really what I want. And so answering that question is never going to get me where I want to go. I have to ask a broader question of how do I want to work, or do I want to work, or what does work mean to me in the first place?
Broader, but deeper too, because that's like a branch level question. You know, if you're thinking about a tree, the branch level question, you know, like your career branch of your tree is, how do I find another job? The better questions live at the root, which are often non-contextual, which is, what do I care about? Who am I as a person?
What role does work play in my life? What do I want to get from work?
Exactly. So I think not great questions are problem-solving questions. They live in your brain. They're things your brain could actually come up with answers to. Isn't it maddening that the worst questions are the ones that are easiest to answer?
Well, because we want to ask questions where we can get into the logistics and the
tangible
how-tos.
outcomes.
Of course we do.
Right.
And yet sometimes, I mean, there's a time and place for those. Don't get me wrong. If you've already asked the big questions and you're clear on why you're doing something and what the value is and that you feel aligned, now we can start asking questions like, how do I want to do it? But starting with those questions is usually more frustrating, more anxiety producing, and often not actually getting at the root of why you're asking yourself these questions in the first place.
So I think not great questions are problem-solving questions. Like, how do I fix it? Questions.
Not great questions are what's wrong with me questions.
Sure. Right. Assuming I'm the problem.
Right.
Better questions are less about the mind and more about how you feel. So how do I feel about working? How do I feel about this industry? Like those harder to answer, but therefore a better question because it's actually getting more at the root of what might actually help you find what you're looking for.
Yeah, it doesn't get you stuck up in your analytical mind because that is just where we get more and more confused. And that's where you run into analysis paralysis. And you could talk yourself mentally into or out of any number of things. If you want real, authentic answers, you have to ask a deeper, more emotional, or sometimes even more spiritual question and get those answers before we start involving the mind. This is actually making me think a little bit of that mind, body, soul side chat.
Yeah, we did a few months ago. I'll link to that too.
Yeah, if you're asking your mind for answers, you're not going to get as deep of answers if you're asking your body or your soul.
But also you can't get it wrong. Like, I don't think there's such a thing as a wrong question because there's no such thing as a wrong answer.
Well, even the answers to quote unquote bad questions are revealing
somewhere.
Are interesting and give you more context to ask the next question.
Also, I get what she's saying about sometimes it feels like you get sent on like a wild goose chase and it's like, if I had asked a better question, would that have happened? And maybe not. But I think it's implying that the wild goose chase is not necessary or important, or sometimes isn't like exactly what you need to happen in order to ask better questions. Like, again,
even having coached like for almost of this 10 years now,
how do we avoid like the shit and the like,
and we get right to the good stuff and avoid
the corners of
uncomfortable stuff.
Yeah. Of getting disappointed or wasting our time. And I'm like, unfortunately, much of what we're doing here is wasting our time. Listen, I hate that more than any of you because I am obsessed with time and maximizing it. I don't like wasting it either. But to a point, how do you learn unless you go on that wild goose chase and you ask stupid questions and you don't get satisfying answers? You don't know how to ask better ones if you don't do that sometimes.
Yeah. I'll tell you, as a coach for over almost 10 years now, a big part of my job is asking good questions. It's like a kind of a critical piece of being a coach.
You have to be able to do it.
And still, sometimes I find myself asking what might seem like the wrong question because later on we figure out what the right question was. But again, I trust the process.
Got to start somewhere.
I trust the process. And so I don't see any of them as wrong.
No,
I see each one of them as saying, oh, okay. So that didn't really go where either of us thought it was going to go. So maybe we need to go a little bit in a different direction or a little bit deeper. And I think the behind this question is the thought that there's one right question that just drills to the heart of it. But if we think of the best way of asking questions as a sequence, then each one of them pulls back something else. And so you don't have, you can take the pressure off of finding the right question. You just have to start somewhere and intuitively listen and use that to ask the next best question and the next best question until you land on the one that really gets the aha moment or the insight. And then there's probably another question under that one too.
Because you're never going to stop having questions.
Nope.
And you're never going to feel satisfied for very long because humans aren't good at that either. So then you're going to be like, what's next? I actually have that question right now. After this trip.
What's next question?
Oh, yeah. Because this was looming on my calendar for so long and it was like a milestone, right? And now that it's passed, I'm like, and I also finished Forever Alone, right? That was a big thing. These things wrapped up within a week of each other. And now I'm like looking around and I'm like, cool.
You know, it's funny.
What's next?
I just talked to a client about this last night and she was worrying about this in advance. So she has a couple of trips and things coming up.
That's so
She's
funny.
like, I'm going to go to Mexico and have this beautiful trip. And I'm going to do this and the holidays. And then I feel I'm already worrying about when January hits, I'm going to be like, what's next? Now what? And I was like, that is the right. Here's another piece about asking questions. That is actually the right question.
Not the right time.
Not the right context either.
Yeah.
She's asking it in terms of, then what? Like, what's going to be next? As if like, I'm worried about this emptiness. It's like, you could ask that same question and be like,
totally different energy.
Then what?
Now
Ooh,
what?
I wonder what's going to happen then. I already know what's going to happen the next 2 months. What's going to happen in January? With curiosity and a little bit of anticipation.
Yeah. What you're saying is
Same
how
question,
you ask the question is just as important as what you ask.
Different energy. Yep. Yeah. So if you think about what's the mindset I'm in when I'm asking the question.
That's you probably need to examine that first before you ask yourself anything. Because if you in an anxiety spiral, there's no good questions that you're going to come up with. None. They're all going to be awful and dredge you deeper into the anxiety. Because like, well, what if I did this? But then what if I did that? And then wait, what if this spiraled into that?
Can we throw out there? We don't have a lot of rules in Clarity on Fire, but can we throw out the rule when you're in an anxiety spiral? Don't ask any questions. Stop asking. That's not the time to ask questions.
Never try to solve it.
You can feel however you need to feel, but don't ask questions, or at least don't try to answer them. Never
try to solve an existential crisis when you're in like a shit mood or an anxiety spiral.
Right. So the mindset that you're in when you're asking the question, which then influences the energy of the question. You could ask the same question from a place of despondency or from a place of curiosity.
Totally
different. Same question, completely different answers are going to come up.
Mm-hmm.
So it can't be about the right question. It's so much, there's more to it than that.
I mean,
I love a good philosophical conversation.
Yeah.
Like
again, there's really no right or wrong way to talk about that. And also you and I have so much experience, and eventually people get what they need to know. And sometimes it was messy and sometimes it was clear and Sometimes you had to ask one question, and sometimes you had to ask 55 questions. And either way, usually still get an answer.
If you had to ask 55, though, usually 54 of them were still necessary to get to the 55th.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all okay. You didn't do it wrong.
Couldn't have done it any faster.
Mm-mm.
I think we think, oh, well, maybe I could have made it into 35 instead. Probably not, to be honest. So if you want the best chance of that, obviously, like, work with a coach, because we are trained in how to ask good questions and how to stop asking stupid surface level questions that don't fix shit. So if you don't want to be the one asking yourself all the questions, because you don't even know if you're asking yourself the right thing in the first place, we're pretty good at identifying what's a bad question and what's a better question, if not a right and a wrong.
And walking through the sequence of getting to the real question under all the others.
Asking them in the right order too, and in the right headspace. So yeah, we can help you with that if you feel like that's overwhelming. Not Chelsea, because Chelsea's already a coach. And also she's already worked with me. So I know Chelsea. So she doesn't need that. But that's for other people who might be like, okay, but I don't have the capacity to ask myself good questions. That's fine. You don't have to.
Nope.
Okay, go ahead with our last one.
Okay. Dear Krachel, I've been looking for a new job for a while, and I recently got offered an opportunity that I would rank as an 8 out of 10. As in, it's okay, but it's not exactly what I've been hoping for. I'm not desperate to get out of my current role, so I don't feel pressured to take this opportunity. But I do feel guilty for not accepting it. Almost like I'm afraid the universe is going to be mad at me and think I'm ungrateful for saying no to an 8. To me, saying no to a decent opportunity feels entitled. I grew up in a home where I wasn't made to feel that I was entitled to happiness. And I often wonder whether a 10 even exists for me. I want to change my thinking about this, though. So how can I do that? And that is from Serena.
Oh, man. These homes where the parents, and I get it, but these homes where the parents were like, it's about survival. It's not about happiness. Really do a number on people. Because most people, at least people who are listening to this, are not going to have a lot of trouble surviving. They're going to have a real hard time being happy, though.
Yeah.
If that's what they've been sort of indoctrinated with. It takes a lot of undoing.
And there's definitely some old programming there about what, certainly about her own deservingness of happiness. But especially, I thought that was so interesting, the piece about, I'm afraid the universe is going to be mad at me if I don't accept this. Like, it's giving me this nice gift and I'm not accepting it. And then it's going to spite me later.
Well, there's an angry God.
Exactly. The old
paradigm
programming
there. Yeah.
About the universe or whatever, God, whatever you want to call it, is not really out to serve my real best interest. Maybe it'll help me make sure I don't starve, but it's not really there.
God or the
happiness.
Universe is an angry God.
It says, take what you get. What is the phrase I always said growing up? You get what you get and you don't have a fit.
Exactly.
But that's one
way that you can see.
It's a one way of interpreting the universe. But in my experience, that is not at all the universe's reaction.
That's the hostile universe way of looking at things. You look through the lens of hostile universe, then the universe.
You better grab whatever you can get and don't hope for too much more.
Right. And don't be a little bitch and
don't be entitled.
Ask for a 10 when you could have been happy with an 8, when other people would be thrilled to have an 8, Serena.
Well, maybe that's a 10 to them. Doesn't have to. Your 8 might be someone else's 10. You know what? I say let them have it.
Yeah. So, or you could see it through the lens of a friendly universe, which is, think of it like a personal shopper. Like, okay, the universe went out and it said, I think she wants this, this, and this. And it brought back something, and it was like, it held it up on its hanger, and it was like, how about this? And you're like, oh, I guess I should wear it because otherwise I'm going to hurt the universe's feelings.
Yeah, we're people pleasing the universe. The universe brought me something nice and I don't want to hurt its feelings, so I better take it.
But you're paying this personal shopper to get you exactly what you want. You don't have to say yes. You can say, you know what? I'm going to express gratitude for what you did right.
Yeah, that's an 8 out of 10. That's a pretty good match.
What I like really about close. That? I like this, and this about what you brought me. Here's where we could use some adjustment and some work. I don't like this particular cut. I don't like that particular style or color, but I like these things. So could we find these things in a different color or a different cut or whatever? And the universe is going to be like, great. Thank you for the information because now I know how to shop for you better. And I won't give you things that disappoint you as much.
And really and truly, what else is the value of having contrasting experiences if not to hone your own preferences and desires more? So it's actually wonderful that you got a job that was getting close, had a lot of good characteristics. An 8 out of 10 is not a bad ranking. There's a lot of good stuff there. You got really clear on, ooh, I actually do like that. Maybe I didn't even think about that piece, but I like that. But you know what? There's a few things that are really, it's gonna kind of spoil the rest of it for me. So you may not have had that discernment or that clarity before getting that example shown in front of you. So often those contrasting experiences are the universe's way of doing exactly what Rachel just said. Honing and helping you hone and clarify for yourself.
No, it ain't for
what
the universe.
You want.
The universe isn't doing that for itself.
No, all knowing, all powerful.
The universe knows what a 10 is, but you might not know exactly what a 10 is, or you might not feel worthy of a 10.
Yep.
So it might need to show you an 8 so that you can work through some of the bullshit you have around it and then get to a place where you'll accept a 10. Right?
Yep. So you have a choice here. You could continue an old pattern, which is, this is the best I can get, and I don't want to expect too high or put my sights too high because happiness isn't really the point. Or you could break a pattern and say, I'm nervous to do this. I still have some fear. It's going to take a little bit of courage to say, this is not quite right. Close, but not quite right. I'm going to hold out for something that feels like a 9.
Or a 10.
Or a 10. I mean, I think Rachel and I usually say 9 to 10 is a really sweet spot range. Because again, there's always going to be a shit sandwich.
There's hardly anything that, nothing's going to feel like a 10 100% of the time.
Nothing is perfect. There's always going to be some aspects to it that you're like, yeah, that's not my favorite part. But there's a difference between, I genuinely don't like a big piece of this.
I'm just not that into it.
But I'm trying to talk myself into it versus, okay, I'm not going to like every moment of every day, but I'm in. I'm fully in. Like, it's a clear yes. And I'm willing to go through the annoying pieces for all the other great stuff.
I've done the cost benefit analysis.
That's not what I just heard in this question. That's not the energy I heard of the question, which is, it's a great job, but there's one little tiny thing that's kind of slightly annoying, but who cares? I'm in. It was, I'm trying to talk myself into something. And that might have been the best you felt you deserve after how you grew up and what you've experienced so far. But if you want to break a pattern, it's scary. It is going to take some courage to say, I'm going to hold out.
How do you know though if a 10's possible if you
only ever snatch up the 8s and then you're not even open to the 10s.
You just confirmed your worst fear.
And I am glad to hear that you're in a job now where you don't feel that urgency to escape right away. The only time I would say, hey, you know what? Maybe an 8 is a good place to be for now is if you are in a really toxic work environment.
If you're in a 3, then an 8's going to look like a real improvement.
And I would call it a bridge job still. The point is not to get to good enough and then just feel complacent and like you're talking yourself into going to work every single day indefinitely. But it might feel like a real relief. And it might feel like you're giving yourself back some energy to go from a 3 to an 8 for a little while. And then we can move up to a 9 or 10. But that's not what I'm hearing you say. It sounds like you're kind of at a good enough job right now. So we don't need to go from a good enough to another good enough.
No, just because we think the universe is going to think we're an ungrateful brat.
Right.
That's not the universe. That's your mom. You.
Right.
Stop projecting your mommy and daddy issues on the universe. Okay. That's exactly what's happening right here.
Don't we all do that to some extent?
Oh, 100%. Because we see the universe as an authority figure.
Sure. Yeah.
The universe doesn't see itself as an authority figure, though. The universe is trying to be your personal shopper. It's trying to be your friend.
The universe doesn't get mad at you.
The universe does not get mad at you. No.
That's a human emotion. That's not a...
Stop projecting that onto
spiritual emotion. No. Yeah. Like...
It just wants to help you.
Yeah.
So like, it's trying to help you. So express gratitude for what it's helping you with. And then you're allowed to clarify. You're allowed to say, close, love it, love this. Like, that's working for me and this isn't. So I would like this instead. The more specifics you can give, the more helpful.
And that's not you being entitled or ungrateful. That's actually being very grateful for this example as a clarifying tool. And you can express that gratitude. You don't have to be like, ugh, an 8? Seriously? Come on.
No, you can be like, wow, I'm really close.
Yeah.
I'm almost there because we're 80%. I just need to get like 10, 15 points higher.
Yeah.
It's not that hard.
No, you're real close.
Helps you know where you are in relation to what you want when you get an 8. Because it's like, okay, I'm on the way. Like I just got a little bit more tweaking and refining to do. Okay.
Yeah. I would see it as a positive sign, not as a I've hit my pinnacle sign.
And this is all I deserve.
Yeah.
Kind of a sign. Ladies and gentlemen, this also applies to dating apps. Just wanted you to know. And dating in general. You do not have to feel bad about saying no to mediocrity. Just wanted you to know that.
You can say, thank you for presenting me.
Here's what I liked about this guy. Here's what needs improvement. You don't tell them that. You let them go and you say, you're not for me. But you tell the universe that, and then you walk away.
I get it. Saying no to 8s is hard. It's scary. It's really scary.
It's scary. It challenges your faith muscle.
It does.
That there is a 10 possible.
But
you're never going to know if you don't allow that faith to be questioned.
And many podcast episodes about people holding out and finally getting what they wanted.
So many. Listen to like any normal person episode. Truly.
We have proof that it works.
Or Forever Alone, which does not yet have concrete proof. But like that was the point. You don't have to have proof in order to feel like you can change your mind about what you're worthy of. And you can hold out for what you want. And like, fuck everybody else who doesn't think that's true. Who cares? All right, Serena. I hope that changes your mind.
I hope so. I hope it at least plants a seed that something else is waiting for you out there. It's going to be.
It definitely is.
I know, but I hope she believes that now.
Yeah.
Because we know it on your behalf.
Guess what the theme of this episode was?
I don't want to do the hard stuff. Can we fast forward to the really good stuff?
Yeah, like, but I don't like actually having to like live life. I just want to have answers. I just want to get clear. I don't want to have to like date someone. I don't want to have to like be in a relationship where someone could hurt me.
I just want to go right to the right question.
I don't want to have to ask the wrong questions in order to ask the right questions. I don't want to have to get an 8 in order to get a 10.
I just want to go right to the 10.
I'm like, guys.
And not have to make the hard choices in the meantime.
Guys,
I know.
I wish that was true.
I know. I feel it. I feel this for all of you. Like we're in this boat with you.
I feel it for myself. Don't worry.
Yeah.
But also it's just not how life works.
Yeah.
And it's not bad.
And you guys are all doing it right. Actually, every single person who asks a question is doing it right.
Yeah.
They just wish they could be more efficient and jump to the answer.
They hoped they were wrong so that they could be, so that they could get what they wanted faster.
Fix it and go be more efficient.
Nope.
You're actually all doing it right.
Yeah. I mean, except for Serena, thinking that she should feel guilty for not wanting an 8. That was wrong.
No. But the fact that she attracted an 8 is a great sign.
That's actually right. She wasn't wrong.
Yeah. Moving in the right direction.
Nothing wrong with you for attracting an 8.
Yeah.
Okay. That was fun.
That was a long one. Thanks for hanging in there.
I said it was fun and you said it was exhausting. Your subtext was that it was exhausting. So
not exhausting.
That's in character.
It is a longer episode.
I bet you Kristen didn't miss podcasting at all.
Nah. That was good.
Oh my God.
I mean, it's fun once I'm doing it again, but
People
I don't
feel so insulted by you right now.
No.
They're like,
they know.
Oh my God, she hates this.
No, they know.
They know how you feel about podcasting.
Well, if they've
You would
listened.
never do it if it weren't for me. We know.
Right. If they've listened enough, they know that you had to talk me into it and I do enjoy it. I do. But I never would have initiated it.
Such a ringing endorsement. I do enjoy it. Oh my God. That's like someone introduced me to like a gory show that I don't really like, but like, it's okay.
Yeah. It's not so bad, really.
It has some good characters. It's like you're trying to find nice things
not
to say about
as bad as I thought it would be.
I think it's better than that.
It is. It's way more fun than I thought going in. I thought I was just going to.
Oh my God.
I don't know. This is not my medium, but you know what? It's become mine. It's become my medium, I think.
No, it hasn't, because you would never do it on your own. So therefore it's not your medium.
Well, it's become more than I ever imagined.
Okay, that sounds nice. I guess we'll leave it on that note.
Okay, and we'll be back next week with maybe something special.
Maybe a special episode. But like, I also haven't
But you know what?
Done anything with it yet. So we're going to have to make sure I can.
Whatever you get what you get, and you don't have a fit.
You get what you get. You don't have a fit. Or you have whatever feelings you need to have about it. And just don't, you can tell me or not tell me. I don't care.
Sure.
Okay.
All right. See you next week.
Bye.